Hello everyone. Good evening, guys. We enabled passcode on the meeting today morning, guys. So people might be looking for passcode at the last minute. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes for others to dial in, and then we get started. And we'll be doing web service basics today. Okay, let's get started, guys. I'm sharing my screen. And yes, we did a couple of intro sessions yesterday and day before, and we'll get started with web service basics today, guys. So before I start building integrations in OIC, before I start building integrations in OIC, I want all of you to be very clear on the basics of web services. See, when I use terms like a SOAP service or a REST API or a JSON payload, or if I say something like XSLT, all of you should be able to easily understand what I'm talking about. So that's why what we do is we today and tomorrow we will be focusing on web service basics. And there are two popular types of web services available in the market today, guys: SOAP and REST. There are a few terms associated with each of these services. With SOAP services, you have terms like XSD, WSDL, XML, and so on. And you also have request and response payloads. Similarly, when you go for REST APIs, there is something called as a HTTP method, a relative path, and you have JSON payloads and so on. So you need to be very clear on these web service basics. So what we do is we will be focusing on SOAP service basics today, and tomorrow we pick up our REST APIs. Now, what exactly a web service is, guys, in a layman terminology? A web service is nothing but service offered over web, and a web service enables communication among various applications using open standards like XML, WSDL, and so on. Two popular types of web services available in the market today: SOAP and REST, as I said earlier. SOAP is an old timer. It's been there for a few decades now. REST is relatively newer. REST is relatively newer. And two key usages of web services, guys. Two key usages of web services. Yes, you can use them to build reusable application components, but typically called as APIs as well. So these are like currency conversion API, weather reports, and so on. So these APIs are like you build them once and you use them any number of times by changing the inputs. And even without your knowledge, guys, on a daily basis, you are already consuming hundreds of web services. So for example, if Sridhar goes to Google and type in a currency conversion from USD to INR, maybe he wants to pay for this course, in the backend, there would be a REST API that gets called, which would fetch the currency information, and that would be displayed back on the browser. And similarly, if say Akshay goes to Google and types in, is it going to rain today evening? There might be a weather service getting called in the background, and he would be able to see that weather information. So one key usage of web service, you can use them to build reusable application components or APIs. And another key usage is we can use them to connect existing softwares, and those softwares can be any. It can be Oracle, non-Oracle. It can be cloud, on-premise, doesn't really matter. Now let's focus on SOAP services today. And how do we do it? Not going through a few slides on a PPT. Instead, what we do is I'll take you to Fusion Cloud application. And remember, guys, all of you have already received onboarding email from us. And one of the link in that onboarding email would give you access to this Google Drive sheet. And in this Google Drive sheet, we maintain the Fusion Cloud instances which are up and running at that point in time. And all you need to do is come into this particular Google Drive sheet, click on the first link. And that's what I did. And when you click on it, it would prompt you to sign in. Okay, let me show you from a sign-in page. You click on the URL. You click on the URL. You would be able to see a sign-in page like this. And you pick up the password from here. And there are a few users that you can use to sign in. And for today and tomorrow's session, we'll use FinIMPL to get into the instance. So I'm trying to log into Fusion Cloud instance. ET80 instance has a finance implementation user, and I'm going to sign into it. Okay, now whenever any client implements Fusion Cloud, guys, there will be a lot of standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle to interact with this application. There are a lot of standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle to interact with this Fusion Cloud application. Now, let's say you're doing an implementation project for a client, and let's say they have a billing system where invoices get created. And let's assume that we need to create those invoices in Fusion Cloud. Now, where do you create invoices, guys? So say, for example, if it is a receivable invoice, you can go to receivables and you can create a transaction manually. If it's one invoice, obviously I can go ahead and create a transaction manually, no big deal. But the point is, I'm getting 500 such invoices from a billing system, and I have to create them in Fusion Cloud. Definitely not something feasible to do manually, right? So that is exactly where, yes, Oracle has given plenty of standard SOAP and REST APIs to do those CRUD operations in Fusion Cloud and to talk to Fusion Cloud application. Now, where do you find those web services information, guys? Hundreds of SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle to talk to Fusion Cloud. If you click on the username, go to the last option, about this application. Sorry, not about this application. Applications help is what you need to search for. Applications help, click on it. And the moment you click on applications help, you will be able to see a Oracle standard documentation URL opening up. If you don't see this page opening up, it only means that there is a pop-up blocker enabled in your browser. Only if that is enabled, you won't see this web link coming up in a next tab. So if you have a pop-up blocker enabled, disable that, and then you will be able to see this link coming up. And also in the PPT, if you go to slide number, okay, if you go to slide number 8, I've mentioned the same link there. Okay. Now what I do is I'll copy this link and I'll put it in a different browser so that it'll be easy for me to do an alt tab. Now this is a standard Oracle Cloud documentation. And you have various modules and offerings here, like ERP, SCM, and so on. I would be going into ERP, and I go to financials as an example. And we are interested in integration-related documentation of finance modules. So I click on integrate, and that will show me links to access the SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle for Fusion Financials. Now we are interested in SOAP services. We're interested in SOAP services. Today, tomorrow we go to REST APIs. So I click on SOAP services, and you would be able to see a business object services at the bottom as a last option. And this is where you find all the standard SOAP services given by Oracle for financials. Now, if you scroll down, what are the services that we see, guys? We see that there is service to load customers, and you see service to load fixed assets. You see a service to load journals. You see a service to load journals, payables, invoices, and if you scroll down further, you also have services to load various receivable transactions. And why is it that you are seeing only the finance-related web services here, guys? Of course, no brainer because we choose
finance folder.
Obviously, right? Because since we selected financial, so we only see finance services. If you go to HCM, you will see HCM APIs there. Now the point is, when we do the standard journaling, or when we do the journal import SOAP service build in OIC, okay, when we build a journal import SOAP service in OIC, we'll see how to consume, we'll see how to use this journal import service given by Oracle in that complex journal import SOAP service. Okay. And I'm not going to pick up a journal service or a fixed asset in today's session because the payload would be complicated. And since our intention is to understand the basics of SOAP services, I'll not pick up a journal or fixed assets or payable invoices. Instead, I'll pick up a service called as ERP integration service. And there are two reasons why I'm picking this up. Reason one, yes, it has slightly simpler payloads, and it'll be easy for me to explain the web service basics. And another good reason is, guys, it is more like a utility service, guys. In plenty of integrations we build in OIC, we will be using ERP integration service. Okay. Now, when you go to the documentation screen, when you click on any of the web service, you will be able to see a service WSDL URL. You just have to copy that WSDL. Malik, note down the question. I'll open up a session at 5:55 and you can ask the question at that point in time. Okay. And SOAP service topic is a bit lengthier, guys. It usually takes the full length 1 hour session. If time permits, I'll take the questions today. REST APIs, we just need 40 minutes. So if time doesn't permit today, I'll take questions for today and tomorrow's session for the last 15 minutes tomorrow. Okay, don't panic. Focus on what I'm explaining at this point in time. And if you have any questions, jot them down. All you need to do is copy the service WSDL URL from the documentation, paste it in here. And in this particular WSDL URL, you would be able to see something called as a server name. Okay, so that's a generic keyword that you have, server name. And you have FSCM. Now, what does FSCM stands for, guys? What does FSCM stands for? FSCM stands for Financials and Supply Chain Management. Okay, it is an FSCM service, and you have a service name $WSDL. I'll talk about what a WSDL is in a moment. Now I just copied that WSDL URL and I've pasted that in here. And what is the next thing that we need to do? Next immediate thing that I need to do was in this particular WSDL, there is a server name and I need to replace this server name with a Fusion Cloud instance name. Now, what is our client, a Fusion Cloud instance name, guys? So I've logged into the first instance here, which is ETAT. And this is my client instance. So I go ahead and copy that instance URL, replace it in the server name. That is how you get the WSDL URL for your client instance. Copy the URL from the documentation, replace the server name with Fusion Cloud Instance host name. And once you get this URL, there's a quick way you can verify whether this is a valid WSDL or not. How do you validate it? All you have to do is go to a browser, open up a new tab, and put it in there. And the moment you paste a WSDL URL there, you will be able to see complete a web service details. Now, WSDL stands for Web Service Definition Language. You would be able to see the complete web service details here. Like you have service name, a description, And within a service, you have operations. Within a service, you have operations. And for every operation, again, you have a description and you have input parameters and output parameters as well. Now, in a PL SQL package, you have procedures, right, which are logical units. And when you have to call a package, you don't call package as a whole. You will call a specific procedure within a package. Yes or no, guys? Do we call a package as a whole or do we call a specific procedure within it? Specific procedure within it. And this is how you do it, right? In an exactly similar fashion, in a SOAP web service, you have operations, which are logical units. You don't call a web service as a whole. You don't call ERP integration service. Instead, you will be calling one of the operations we have within it. One of the operations you have within it. And for every operation, you have description, input parameters, and output parameters. And you would be able to see this information, and and WSDL stands for Web Service Definition Language. Some people also refer to it as Web Service Description Language as well. But in short, it contains the complete details about a web service. Now, if you go back to the documentation here, also you will be able to find the list of operations that this particular service has. Now, we'll try to call a couple of these operations and try to understand the basics. Ideally, guys, and probably from next Monday, when we build integrations in OIC, we'll see how to call these services from the integrations that you build within OIC. But today, I still want to call these operations and show you how they work, but we won't be calling them from OIC. Instead, we will be doing it with the help of a testing tool called SOAP UI. Now, what we do is we'll try to call a couple of operations. Okay, get ESS job status and submit ESS job request. So we'll try to call these two operations using a testing tool called SOAP UI to see how or to understand the basics of SOAP services. Now, first of all, what do you make out from the name, guys, when I say submit ESS job request? What do you make out from the name? One of you might say, Prasad, what the hell is ESS job? I'm hearing it for the first time. Now, the full form of ESS is Enterprise Scheduling Service Job, guys. In short, think of it as a job that you can run in the application. Think of it as a job that you can run in the application. And that job would execute a technical component in the background. It can be a report, or it can be a PL SQL package, or it can be anything. So it's just that you are running a job in the system. Okay. ESS is the name that we have for Fusion Cloud. And if you're coming in with EBS background, we have something called as concurrent programs in EBS. So if you build some technical component, like a report or PL SQL package, you register it as a concurrent program in EBS and you run it. In a similar fashion, you have ESS jobs in Fusion Cloud. These are ESS jobs are synonymous to concurrent programs. If you don't know anything about EBS, forget about it. Just think of it as a technical job that is registered in Fusion Cloud. And if you have to run a job, let's first see how to run a job in Fusion Cloud manually. We'll first see how to run a job manually, and then we will see how to run it with the help of these operations, with the help of this operation. Now I've logged into Fusion Cloud application here, guys, and to run a job or to submit a job, I can click on this arrow mark few more times until I see tools. And from tools, you have something called a schedule process. So you go in there, and from schedule process screen, the moment you come into this particular screen, guys, you might probably see some requests already in running state. No? You can expand the search. And just to avoid confusion, what I do is in the search box, I say, don't show me all the requests. Show me only the requests that are submitted by FinIMPL user, the user with which I've logged in. Okay. And you still seem to have few jobs in the window here, but that's okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to run a job. So if I want to run a job, The first thing that I did is I accessed the application. I logged into it. I came to Tools, Schedule Process, and from here I can say Schedule a new process. And it'll ask me, Prasad, looks like you want to run a job. Tell me which job do you want to run? And you have plenty of jobs given by Oracle in Fusion Cloud. There are a lot of seeded jobs that come with the application. And your technical consultant might even create few more jobs as well in the application. And those jobs will also show up here. Now, all you have to do is search for a job that you want to run. And I want to run a job called Payables Health Check, guys. Now, to be frank, I'm least interested. To be frank, I'm least interested in what this job does. My only intention of doing what I'm doing now is to show you how to run a job in Fusion Cloud. And I don't really care what it does. And all it does is, yes, it collects some help information about payables application. I'm picking up a random job in the dropdown. I click OK. And this job doesn't have any parameters. So you see this section blank. You don't have anything here. Go ahead and submit it. The moment you submit a request, you get back a request ID. You get back a request ID. This will be the same behavior that you see when you try to submit a job using that submit ESS job request operation as well. Click OK. And when you refresh it, you should be able to see that request here. And you see that it completed successfully. So this is how you run a job manually. Okay, no big deal. Log in, go to Tools, Schedule Process, schedule a new process, pick up a job and submit it. But what if I want to do this? What if I want to do this? Let's say I'm building an integration in OIC. Let's say I'm building an integration in OIC. And from an integration flow, and I'm going to show you an integration as well, guys, where we use these services so that you will be able to connect the dots. So from an integration flow, let's say I want to go into Fusion. I want to come into Fusion Cloud and I want to submit a job here. How do I do that? I certainly cannot do it manually because I want to run this job from an integration. I want to submit a job in this Fusion Cloud application. And that is exactly where this standard SOAP service given by Oracle will come handy. I can call this submit ESS job request operation. And the submit ESS job request operation, as you can make out from the name, it would help you to submit a job. And you just need to pass in the details, like what job you want to submit and with what parameters. And if you don't, and after you submit a job, you obviously would get back a request ID. Obviously, you would get back a request ID. And so let's see how to do this. I want to submit a job in this Fusion Cloud instance with the help of this operation. Now to do that, yes, we will be calling these services from integrations we build in OIC from next week. But I want to show you how to call these operations today with the help of a testing tool. Now, what is a testing tool that we use to test SOAP services, guys? SOAP UI is a testing tool. It's a free testing tool, guys, that is available in the market. And it is quite popular testing tool, free tool available in the market. Just go to Google, search for SOAP UI, click on download. And you would be able to see two operations here. You will be able to see two operations here. Sorry, two options. You have a paid version and you have a free option. You have a free version as well. There's absolutely no need to go for paid version, guys. Whatever features are available in the open source version or a free version, this is more than enough for us. Download this SOAP UI open source version. There would be an executable file that gets downloaded. Double click on that executable file and open the tool. Now, as soon as you download this executable file and double click on it and install it, you will be able to see a shortcut like this showing up on your desktop, guys. Okay, you will be able to see a shortcut like this showing up on your desktop. You just have to open it. Any version is fine, guys. Version doesn't matter. Any version is fine. And once you open a SOAP UI, this is exactly how it looks like. Since if you have installed a tool afresh, you might probably not see any of the projects. And all you have to do is click on a SOAP at the top, click on a SOAP project, create a new one. And I'm going to create a new project for your batch, call it UG104. And I need to enter the WSDL URL. Remember, guys, we prepared a WSDL URL, right? We copied the URL from the documentation. And in that URL, we replaced our Fusion Cloud instance name. And that's how we got this ERP integration service WSDL. All I have to do is plug in that WSDL here. ET80 instance, ERP integration service WSDL. And by default, this option will be checked, guys, which says create sample request for all operations. Leave that checked. And SOAP UI is going to scan this web service. And for every operation that you have in the integration, guys, there will be a sample request and response payload generated for every operation. And you click OK. Now, the moment you click OK, you would be able to see the payloads generated. You will be able to see the payloads generated for it. 2 folders generated, guys. 2 folders get added to your SOAP UI. You will be able to see response binding, and you would also see SOAP HTTP folder. These are the 2 folders that you get to see. Ignore the response binding folder, go to SOAP HTTP folder. And in SOAP HTTP, you expand it, you will be able to see the operations here. Now we are interested in submit ESS job request operation. Okay, submit ESS job request is what we are interested in. Expand it, and you could see that there is a sample request already generated here for us. Now you see this is now you see a sample request payload already generated by SOAP UI for us for submit ESS job request operation. And if you have to submit a job, we need to pass in a package name, definition name, and the parameters. And for every attribute, you have a start tag and you have an end tag. And between the start and end tags, you have question marks. And your job is to replace those question marks with actual values and then submit a request. Now, what type of data format is this called as, guys? Like for every attribute, you have start and end tags. What is it called as, guys?
XML.
XML format. And whatever is a payload that you're passing in this window, we normally call it as a request payload. Remember, guys, please don't use terms like input message for the operation and output message. That is a crude way of referring to it. Start getting used to the integration terminologies. Whenever we pass a message to an operation, we don't call it input message. We call it as a request payload. Request payload. And after you hit the submit button, you will see the response in this window. And what do you call that as? Response payload, not output message, guys. Please don't say input or output message. Okay. So instead, you have to use terms like request and response payloads. Payload is nothing but a message that you're passing. Now, I need to, okay, so we ran this job, payable cell check job, manually from the application here by going into schedule process screen. So let's try to submit the same job using submit ESS job request operation, guys. And for that, I need to get the job package name, definition name, and the parameters I need to pass in. Now, where do you get the package and definition name from, guys? See, when I try to submit a job, it is showing me a list of jobs in the dropdown. Now, where are these jobs coming in from, guys? There is a job definition screen in every Fusion Cloud instance. There is a job definition screen where the jobs are, where these ESS jobs are defined. And whatever jobs are defined in that ESS job definition screen, you will be able to see them in the dropdown. Okay. Now, let me go to that particular ESS job definition screen, guys, and I'm trying to open the Fusion Cloud instance in a new tab. And I click on a username. And I need to go to setup and maintenance under administration because I need to look at a ESS job definition. And once you are in this screen, so this is called as a functional setup manager screen, guys. You don't need to do anything in this screen. All you have to do is click on the menu option. All you have to do is click on the menu option. And you need to click on a global search. And you need to click on global search. Okay, now it would show you this page, guys, global search page. Looks more like a Google search page. And here you need to search for the task that you are interested in. I'm interested in manage enterprise job definition page. And I don't need to type in the exact name, guys. I can do a pattern search. So I'm just saying manage enterprise percentage job percentage. And it's going to show me all the tasks related to the job definition. Now we see that there are three tasks here. We have FSCM. We have one task for FSCM, HCM, and CRM. Now, what is the task that I should go into, guys? What is the job that we are interested in? Payables health check job. What module is payables, guys? Does it belong to CRM or HCM?
Finance.
No, it is finance.
It belongs to financials, right? So I go to the second task and I'll search for that particular job definition in the window. Now what I do is I'm going to search for payables health check job. So whatever jobs are defined in this particular screen, yes, plenty of them are given by Oracle. And even your technical consultant might have created few jobs here. All of them will be showing up in the drop down there. Now you choose the payables health check job, edit it. And from the job definition, we need to copy the path. This is nothing but a package name. And you have to pass it in the package name. And we also need to copy the job definition name. Remember, guys, you need to copy the job definition name, which is this. Don't copy the job definition display name. This is not the one that you should copy. This is the one that you should. And then we need to pass in the parameters. Does this job have any parameters, guys? Do you see any parameters here?
No, sir.
We don't have any parameters, right? So since this job doesn't have any parameters, what is it that I should do? I need to take off this parameter tag. It's not really required because this job doesn't have any parameters. But tomorrow you submit another job and you need to pass in one parameter. What do you do? In such case, you will pass in a first parameter value here. And let's say a couple of days later, you want to submit another job which has three values, three parameters. Then you repeat this tag. So the parameter list is a tag that you can repeat 0 times or n times. So depending on the number of parameters we have on a job, you can repeat this tag as many times and you pass in the values here. Now it is common sense and no-brainer. And please don't ask such silly questions in a session that what if I should the parameters that we need to mention here match with a sequence and a number on a job definition? It should match. Yes or no, guys? Whatever sequence in which you're passing in a parameters, it should match with the job definition. If a job has 3 parameters, you pass in 3. If another job has 10, you pass in 10. And what if I don't want to pass in value for one of the parameters? What do you do in such case? If I don't want to pass in any value for a second parameter, I just want to take off that value. So this is how I pass in the values. Now, in our case, I want to submit a job that doesn't have parameters. So I'm going to take off that parameter tag completely. And my intention is, yes, I want to submit this job in the application. Now, first of all, when I hit the submit button, in which Fusion Cloud instance will it submit a job, guys? Because there are at least 2 instances that we know of, right? We have 2 instances here. We have ETAT and we have EVWB. Now, when I hit the submit button, in which instance will SOAP UI try to submit a job?
ETA.
How does it know?
Yeah, in the host name it's there.
Because that is the first step that we have done in the session. If you remember, we picked up a WSDL URL from our definition, and in the WSDL URL, we replaced the server name with our Fusion Cloud instance name. So if I hit the submit button, SOAP UI knows that Prasad wants to submit this job in 88 instance and it'll attempt to do it. Now, if I hit this button, this is probably the first mistake that you do. In a hurry to test your first SOAP service, you enter the details and you hit the submit button. Now, whatever you pass in the request here, in the request window, you get to see the same thing in the response. You have no clue what's going on. But before you send me a message in WhatsApp, ensure that you are in XML tab, right? So you are in XML tab, click on raw, and that will tell you what the problem is. What's the problem, guys? It says unauthorized request.
Authentication.
Might be
Authentication.
credential issue.
Credentials issue. So one important point you need to understand is all the standard SOAP services and REST APIs given by Oracle are secured APIs, guys. So whenever you call them, you definitely have to pass in authentication details. Otherwise, you won't be able to call them. Doesn't it make sense, guys? Because if anybody could guess my 3 or 4 characters, they can walk away with my data. They can run a job in my application. They can do whatever they want, right? For the obvious reasons of 25th, 2025. Yes, all the standard SOAP services and REST APIs given by Oracle are secured APIs. And only when you pass in authentication, you will be able to call them. Clear? Now, how do I pass in the authentication details? I go to authorization, add new authorization, and I'll have to enter the username and a password here. And today we are using basic authentication. And as we progress in the course, and once we start building integrations in OIC, when we do the REST API and SOAP service build, we'll see in action how other authentication mechanisms work, like how does an OAuth works, how does username password token works, how does a basic auth works. We'll cover that in detail. Okay, now I'm going to copy this password and I'll enter it here. So what is it that I'm asking SOAP UI to do now? Boss, log into this instance with this username and password and submit this job. It would say, okay. It would go ahead and try to do it, and you would get back a response. And in the response, you see a result. Scroll to the right, you would be able to see the request ID. I go back to Fusion Cloud application, refresh it here. You should be able to see a job submitted here. So this is a job that we ran manually. And you refresh it, you should be able to see another request submitted in cloud with a request ID as 292. Okay, so this is a job that is submitted. But tell me one thing is, when you submit a job manually from here, you can see with your own eyes what is the request ID and what is the completion status. But when you try to run it from a SOAP UI, guys, or from an integration in OIC, if you try to submit a job, you only get back a request ID. And you might be interested in understanding whether that job completed in success or warning. Because maybe based on a completion status of a job from the integration, you want to send out a relevant email notification. Now, is there any operation that we have in ERP integration service which can help me get ESS job status, guys?
Yeah, it's the first one.
That's the first one, right? So I'm going to pick up this request ID and I go to get ESS job status. I'll search for the request ID. I'll enter it here. And I'm going to pass in the authentication details here. Then I am here. And I need to get the password and submit it. What is it that I'm going to get now, guys? I would be getting back a response, and in the response, I'll be able to see the completion status of the job. Did the job completed in succeeded state, guys, here? Yes, it did. And don't get confused by the case, guys. When you look at the application, or when you look at the status in the application, you see it as init-cap. But when you get the status back in SOAP UI, you will see it in all capital letters, guys. Okay. So this is how you call the SOAP services, and whatever you pass in here is a request payloads, and whatever you get is a response. And you have SOAP services, which has operations in them. And these operations are what we are calling here. Now, to help you understand how exactly are we going to use these standard SOAP services in the integrations we build in OIC, I'm going to quickly open a journal import service that we are going to build. I'm going to open the journal input service that we're going to build as our fourth integration from here on to help you connect the dots. See, today we have just seen how to call those operations from a testing tool like SOAP UI. But ideally, we would be calling them from the integrations we build in OIC. I go to projects. And I'll pick up, I can pick up any of the projects. I'll pick up 100, UG 100. Or let me pick up UG 101. And I'm going to show you the service, the journal input service. Yeah, these are all the integrations that we're going to build, guys, for the next 2.5 months. I just want to open up a journal import service and I want to show you how we leverage the standard services given by Oracle. So this is, assume that this is a journal import service that we are building for HSBC, and HSBC will trigger our integration from their core banking system where journals are created. They're going to trigger our integration, pass in a journal payload as input. So they might call your integration, pass in 500 lines or 1,000 journal lines as input. And once you get those journal lines, my job is to import those journals in ERP. So I'll use ERP connection here. And with that ERP connection, I will be calling a journal import service first. Do you have a journal import service here, guys? Right? You see a journal import service here. I'm going to call this journal import service here using ERP connection. And then whatever 100 or 500 or 1,000 lines I receive, I'm going to pass it as input here to the standard service. And this would, and what the service would do was it would dump the data into interface table. Okay. So in this operation, you have import journals. And when I call this, it would insert the data into interface table. Does that mean journal is created, guys, in the application? Not really. After the data is dumped into interface table, say 500 lines or 1,000 lines, at this point in the integration, I want to go to Fusion Cloud. I want to go to Fusion Cloud at this point in my integration. And I want to submit import journals ESS job. I want to submit import journals ESS job. Now from an integration, assume that we are an integration flow. And I want to go into Fusion Cloud, and in Fusion Cloud application, I want to run import journals ESS job. This is my requirement. And can you tell me what is the service that I need to call to submit a ESS job in Fusion Cloud from an integration? What service should I call here? I will be calling ERP integration service, right? Is this a service that we just called? And in this service, I will call submit ESS job request operation. So we just call that same operation, right? ERP integration service. And we will call the submit ESS job request operation from the integration here. Now, whenever from an integration flow, whenever you try to say submit an ESS job, it would immediately create a mapper. So this is like I'm asking OIC to submit a job. It will say, okay, Prasad, I'll do that. It would immediately create a mapper and say, Prasad, but you have to let me know what is the job that I need to run in the application. What job should I submit? So this is where I need to mention the job package name and definition name of import journals job. So what do? I go to the job definition screen here. And from the job definition screen, I search for import journals job. I search for import journals job. And I'll have to get the job definition name and a package name here. Job definition name and package name from the job definition screen. Okay, so you see the job package name. You see the job package name or a job path, and you see the job definition name. And that is exactly what I mentioned here. And how many parameters do we have, guys, on import journals job here? Remember payable cell check job, there were no parameters, right? But in case of import journals, do we have any jobs here, guys? How many jobs do we see? How many parameters? Sorry, my bad. How many parameters?
6, 7.
Seven parameters. And those are the 7 parameters that I'm passing in here. Don't get confused by word 9 here. But it's actually 7 parameters that we are passing in here. You have choose when and otherwise conditions. So out of 5 and 6, only 1 will go. Out of 6 and 7, sorry, 7 and 8, only 1 will go. So there are 7 parameters that I have to pass. So it doesn't matter where you call a SOAP service from, guys, whether you call it from a SOAP UI testing tool or whether you call it from an integration in OIC. Yes, you will have to pass in the required details. And what this would do, guys, I've submitted a request here. Immediately, I get back a request ID. Now, the point is, HSBC has told me that, Prasad, I'm going to send you a batch. I'll move on. After you process a batch, I want you to send me a notification letting me know whether a journal batch is imported successfully or not. So what do I need? What do I do in the integration? I'll wait for a minute in a while loop. And here I'm submitting a job. I'll get back a request ID. I'm in integration in OIC. I have request ID with me, and I need to get the ESS job status. What should I do, guys? I'm in integration flow. I have a request ID. I need to get the ESS job status. What should I do?
Get ESS job we need to call.
I need to call this get ESS job status in ERP integration service from here. And that is exactly what I've done. This is exactly how you're going to leverage or use the integrations given by Oracle. Not the integrations, web services is what we call them. This is how you call the standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle. In the integrations we build in OIC, I'm trying to call ERP integration service, get ESS job status. Now, when I ask you to get the ESS job status, it will say, okay, Prasad, I can definitely do it. And it would create a mapper. And what should I pass in as input, guys? To get the ESS job status, you guessed it right. It's a request ID that we have to pass in, right? And where exactly do we have a request ID? See, when I call these two operations from a SOAP UI, I submitted a job first. I got back a request ID. I picked up that request ID, and then I copied that and I pasted it in that request ID and passed it as input to get ESS job status. Right, passed it as input to get ESS job status, and you get back a request status here. Clear? You get back this request status. Now, you don't need to do this manually in the integration, guys. In the integration, you see there was a request that I have sent out earlier to submit a job. And when I submitted a request, I was passing in all the parameters and the job definition and package name. I get back a response. And in the response, what do I see, guys? I see a result. And what is the result of a submit ESS job request, guys? When you submit a request, you get a result in the response. And in that result, what do we have? You have a request ID. In the response of submit ESS job request operation, you have a result attribute. And in that, you get back a request ID. And that request ID is what I'm passing as input. So it's like basically, you can call any number of services in OIC integration. And you can even pass output of one service call here. You get back a request ID. And that is exactly what I'm passing as input to this operation. And when you try to get the ESS job status, what do you get back in the response? You see, again, you get back a result. And there you have a status. And I'm using a switch statement here to check if the job has completed and succeeded, warning or error. And based on that, I'm sending out a relevant email notification. Just to help you connect the dots, don't worry about the exact design of the integration, guys. We're going to spend almost 5 to 6 hours on this integration build, and we talk about each and every step in detail. On a very high level, just try to understand how we are going to call the standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle in one set of integrations we build in OIC. Now, as I give this walkthrough, some students immediately come to conclusion and say, okay, Prasad, I understood everything. All you do is whenever you build integration in OIC, in that integration, you will be calling the standard SOAP or REST APIs here. Well, that is not a correct statement. In one set of integrations that you build, web service-based approach integrations that you build in OIC, you would be calling the standard SOAP services or REST APIs given by Oracle. But there's plenty of other complicated stuff that you can do in OIC. You can do a file-based automations, you can do event-driven orchestrations, and so on. And we'll worry about it for the next 2.5 months, not today. And one last thing that I want to talk about. How does SOAP UI know that it has to that we have to pass in a package name and definition name to submit a job and the parameters, and only the request ID to get the ESS job status? So my question is, who has told SOAP UI that request ID is the input payload for this? And there are 3 attributes in the input payload for submit ESS job. Any idea, guys? Who has told SOAP UI that information? Or let me rephrase it. What is the only input that we pass to SOAP UI? The only input that I passed to SOAP UI is I created a project and I passed in a WSDL URL here. Right? The only input that I gave to SOAP UI is a WSDL. So somewhere in that WSDL URL, you have all that information. You have all that information in that WSDL, basically. Now let me show you that information. See, for every request, you have a request payload and you have a response payload. So what Oracle would have done is, Oracle would have created a custom data types, request and response data types required for every operation in XML schema document. Oracle would have created an XML schema document with a request and response data types in it. And that request and response data types can be used to define messages, request and response messages. And those request response messages are attached to the operation under a port type element. Okay, you have request response data types defined in XML schema document. Those are used to define request response messages. And those messages are attached to the operation in the input and output. Now let me show you this. I'm back in a WSDL definition. And if I search for types here, you will be able to see the XML schema document here. You see XST, copy that, and you paste it in a new tab. And you would be able to see, when you paste it in a new tab, you would be able to see a request and response data types given by Oracle for every operation. Okay, you see for get ESS job status, this is a request data type, and this is a response data type. You're passing in request ID as input of data type on long or number, and you're getting back a result. So similarly, for every operation, you have request and response data types defined. And those request and response data types are used to define request response messages. You see here, there is a request response messages defined for get ESS job status. And in that request and response messages, you have that request and response data types used. Okay, so you have data types defined first, and those data types are used to define messages. And if I copy that message and go down, you would be able to see after data types and messages, you will see a port type element. Under port type, you see operations. So similar to how you have procedures in a package, you have operations in SOAP services. And for every operation, you will be able to see an input and output. And to the input, you have a request message attached. To the output, you have a response message attached. And I hope you know the answer by now. So what SOAP UI did, guys, the moment I loaded this WSDL, it went to port type. It picked up one operation at a time. And for every operation, it picked up the request message. And it went to the definition, message definition. And in the message, there is a data type attached. And there is an XML schema document in our data types here. And you copy this data type and you go ahead and search for it here. You see a request and response data types. And in the request data type, you have request ID. And that is why when we submitted a job, it prompted us to pass in only the request ID. Shall we work out how it derived the payload for submit ESS job request, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Let's give it a try. So what SOAP UI would have done, it went to the operation, and in the operation, into the input, there is a request message attached. We copy that, and we go to that message definition, and in the message, there is a data type attached. You copy that data type, and you go to a definition, XML schema document, you search for that data type here, and you would be able to see that for submitting ESS job, you have to pass in a job package name, definition name, and you also have to pass in the parameters. And these parameters that you need to pass in, it is a repeating element. You can have parameter occurring only once, or you can repeat it a number of times depending on the number of parameters you have. So this is exactly how things work in a SOAP services. You have data types defined in schema document used to define messages, and those messages are attached to the operations in a port type element. I have 4 minutes left. I'll be taking questions for the next 4 minutes. Please don't worry or panic if I don't get a chance to take a question today. Tomorrow we will be doing REST API basics, and I would just need 40 minutes or 45 minutes for that topic tomorrow. And I'll be taking remaining questions in tomorrow's session. Any questions from anyone? Malik, please go on. Shatabdi, Malik, I'll come to you first. Please raise your hand,
Yes.
and I'll call out your name. Yeah, go on with your question.
So when you saw that integration service page for the SOAP URL, you said something for it's kind of utility service. That I didn't know. What is utility service?
Okay, so what I mean by it is, we are calling submit ESS job request in this integration, right? Similarly, in plenty of other integrations you build in OIC, you will be having a requirement to submit a job, and you will be calling ERP integration service. If something is used very frequently, we call it as utility service. Okay.
Like
That's
it is already
common
made
package.
by Oracle, common thing, and we are going to use it.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Pradnya.
Yeah, so I mean, I have two questions. One is when we use this SOAP web services, and when do we use REST? And another thing
First of
is,
all, we didn't even talk about REST APIs. I'll talk about it tomorrow. Then I'll give you a comparison so that it'll be easy for you to understand.
Sure. And just one more thing, I mean, we'll surely cover that clarification in our next sessions. But when we design it through the OIC, here we can see just there's a mapping of the parameters and the fields that we do. So how their SOAP comes into picture when we design this integration, which I'm seeing right now on the screen.
I didn't get the point. So how is this mapper created is what you're asking.
No, I mean, we create the mapper here, but we didn't have any payload or anything that is passed to the SOAP payload.
You'll understand it. Don't worry about the granular details. Okay, so we are going to build not one service, 15 such integrations. So don't worry about it for now. Okay.
Thank you.
Srikanth, thank you.
Yeah, we already have Oracle ERP adapter in the OIC, right? So again, why Oracle has provided this? So is it related to same adapter, or can I know that?
You have an adapter, but what do you do? What do you do after you have an adapter? So you cannot. You need to find a quiet place when you attend a training session, Srikanth.
Yeah, sorry.
And when you have an adapter, you connect your phone, but should you also plug that adapter into a electricity cable and turn on the switch as well to charge your phone, right? So just having an adapter will not be sufficient. After you use that adapter, to create a connection. And when you use that connection, you will see these standard SOAP and REST APIs, and you have to call appropriate service depending on what you need to do. Adapter is this node that you are seeing, and within the node you see those services, and depending on what you want to do, you need to call the appropriate service. Adapter is only to show you that list of services. Okay, and which service to call depends on what integration you're building. Yes, Rakshita.
Hi, Prashant. So actually, is SOAP UI is like an outdated version? I mean, before REST, like, are we still using it in real-time services?
Very well, we use it. Yes, REST is relatively used more when compared to SOAP services. But please don't think that SOAP service is a gone case. There are a few use cases where we use SOAP. What are those use cases? We'll cover them when we build the integrations. But yes, it's definitely worth it. Investing your time in installing a SOAP UI and testing it. We definitely use it today also, but not as extensively as we do for REST. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Pradosh.
Yeah. So what happens when some ESS jobs goes for long running? Like it happens in EBS also, right? That sometimes jobs get stuck.
Okay, so
what happens in that case?
but if that happens, since we are in this integration, since we are waiting until the ESS job completes, this integration also keeps waiting until the job runs, because you see there is a while loop that I have used. Wait for a minute, get the status. If it's still running, I'll wait for one more minute and then get the job status. You can plug in such a logic in the integration. And if it takes more than an hour or a long time, the integration might get timed out, but usually the services that we run or the jobs that we submit, it usually completes in less time. Okay, but you can control in the integration what exactly you want to do if that happens. Yes, Suman.
Yes, sir. So actually, we used standard API. Those APIs are already defined with Oracle. Those APIs we are using for our practice frames.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow, same time.